To episode 6 of the U.S.S. Cerritos tutorial. I'm Zero Elite, and I just want to thank you very much for tuning into today's video. And if you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button and helping me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. And if you can follow me on twitch.tv/Zero Elite, I greatly appreciate that. And today we have about a 36-minute video. We're going to be picking up where we left off on our Cerritos, and we're going to be working on primarily on the lower end of the ship on the pylons and nacelles. We're going to, before we hop into that, we're going to slightly rework the pinstripe on the lower hull. We're going to move it over just a little bit, and then we're going to trim down the length of the pylons. Now, before we get into this, just to give you a rundown why I'm doing this, is basically is that um, on the lower end of the ship, the pylon itself needs to actually be in front of the yellow line. But I've made the decision that the pylons are actually too big and that we actually have to move them over a little bit. So we're just going to be slightly adjusting that today. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. And we're just going to get rid of our training line that we had before. We don't need it anymore. And let's do the other side too. We're actually going to be getting rid of all 4 of them. I also want to be sure making sure that you did not delete your pylon, even though we're going to be pretty much deleting a good portion of that back end of it. We'll get to that in a few moments. Now, to bring this yellow line down, we're literally going, or to bring this yellow line over one, we're literally just going to be repeating the same process that we have from the above us. So we're just moving this line down a couple of rows to match our lower decking. So we want it to line up with this row, the gray line, and then also the previous yellow one. So we've got our marker down to have it where we need to build it. Now we're going to start putting yellow concrete blocks at an angle going all the way back until we get to the outer ring, the edge of our saucer, and then we're going to go all the way in until we get to our inner yellow ring. Because that's the other thing too. The pylons, they don't look bad, and if you're not too savvy on starships, pylons or these pieces right here, the things that actually hold the starship ship engines. Um, they don't look bad as is. I probably could have left them, but I just decided that they're a little bit too big, so I just want to slightly adjust them a little bit. So I'm trying to figure out at which point right here, how far I want to trim them back. So now we're going to start our yellow line before we get into that. Now let's bring that all the way back. And we're directly below the yellow line above us. Don't forget, once you hit your inner ring, your first inner ring, now we're going to be going down transition by 1 to bring us down with the next hull level. And now we're going to bring this all the way back. This is also going to give us an idea of how far or how much of the pylon we need to shave off. And it looks like we're taking away a lot, but we're really not. All right, that looks pretty good. So let's bring that all the way over. It looks pretty good. Let's hop over to the other side and we're going to repeat that same process. And now we've hit our first inner ring, so now we're going to transition down by one. Going to continue on at our angle, going all the way in until we get to our yellow inner ring. I made a boo-boo there. Let's fix that real quick. All right, looking good. Let's continue on. Now, once we get this completed, we can get a real good idea of how much we need to shave off the pylon. And we're pretty much going to be replacing the entire back end of it, but that's okay. It's not really that much work, and it should only take a few moments. We still have some stuff to do. It's about a 36-minute video today. Not too long, but still long enough to get some stuff done. All right, beautiful. So now the top end matches the bottom end on the pinstripe, and we can get rid of this old one. I want to make sure we do not delete our first inner ring, because we definitely are going to need that later on. We don't need this pillar anymore right here. Let's get rid of that. Oh, had a little bit of access there too. Okay. We're not looking too bad right now. So we're really not going to be shaving off that much of the pylons and really think about it. We're only going to bring it um, just probably about to like right about here and then have it transition back. So it's still going to have some thickness to it, but it's not going to be super long how it is right now. And I'm not pulling it up in the stream, but when I'm building this ship, typically I'm looking at either screenshots or a 3D model of the Cerritos, both of which are very easy to get your hands on. Just go on Google and type in U.S.S. Cerritos exterior screenshots, or U.S.S. Cerritos exterior. You don't even have to type screenshots. Or if you're looking to get the 3D model, just go on Google and type in U.S.S. Cerritos 3D model, and it should be like one of the first links. Well, actually, like usually the first three links will work. Um, but I like to use the 3D model, excuse me, because it gets you a little bit more of an idea of the shape of the ship rather than just looking at it from one specific angle. So you can see right there where I'm making that cut. If you go off the blue line, we're counting 2 forward, and then on the third row, that's where we're going to make that cut going down. Everything behind that, we're going to get rid of. So now we're going to make a training line, as I like to call it, just to stop us from making a mistake. Perfect, so that matches up on that side too. It's never a bad idea to do that, to put a line just going straight across right there. If you have something like a build like this where it's a duplicate essentially on each side, you can use this line to help you measure everything up. So that's really the main reason why I'm doing that right now. Those blue lines, we're not going to keep them there. We'll get rid of them as we go. But right now, we're going to get rid of the back end of the pylons, and let's go ahead and rebuild them. Yeah, and there's really not that much on the back end of it, so this is going to go pretty quick. And then I'm anxious to get into building out the wireframe of the engines, so at least we can have a more complete frame of the ship as we're going. All right, so now we're going to do the same thing on the right side. We're going to get rid of everything under that blue line. Had a couple of blocks there accidentally deleted. Want to make sure we fix that. Now I know both the right side and the left side on the bottom of the pylon, they're not matching up, but don't worry about that because when we start to rebuild it out, we're going to start from the top and work our way down. So this way, regardless of where they're matching up in the bottom, we'll be able to use the top end to match it up. So that's going to be my little trick to do that. Now we're going to shave off one from this white row right here. All right, we're in good shape. Right where we need to be. So now we're going to start building out with the white concrete blocks going down and at an angle. Let's fix this real quick. Perfect, looking good. We don't need this now, going back. And it's always a good thing while you're building a custom ship. I mean, if you're needing a marker line, using something that's going to stand out in the build, so this way it's easy to get rid of. Oh, I got one more to delete. There we go. We're looking good. Now we're going to start our transition going down at an angle. And we've already got the bottom row determined. That's already been done previously. So really the hardest part about this isn't going to be too difficult at all. It's just a matter of bringing this all the way down to the bottom row of our current pylon. And while this is going, I've had a couple of people actually ask me if I've seen the new episode of Discovery. I haven't yet, but I'm hoping to watch it either tonight or over the weekend. But I saw the teaser for the episode and it looked pretty good. I'm excited to check that episode out. And I've also had other people ask me in the past about streaming, which is one of the reasons why I've started my streaming on Twitch. And you can always catch my Twitch stream Sundays through Thursdays, typically between 9 and 10 p.m. And I will probably stream in between that during the day, but that schedule I just gave you is when I'm going to be getting on almost certainly. So definitely keep an eye out for that. And if you have any questions while I'm doing these builds live, you can definitely drop a comment below. I do have the chat up so I can see that, and be more than happy to help you out if I can. Now see, that looks pretty good. See how easy that was to match that up, just continuing the angle all the way down. And now we're going to repeat that same process now on the left side. Don't worry about the thickness just yet of the back end of the pylon. We'll fix that in just a few moments. I just want to get the wireframe shape of it right, and then we can add some thickness to it. And another helpful tip, definitely while you're building ships on here, is you can definitely tell that oh, I messed up right there. I'm gonna have to fix that. But building out your ship in a wireframe first is very beneficial because it can help you to portion out your whole ship together rather than just speed building it out. Taking your time to plan what you're doing, building it just step by step, piece by piece. I always like to start with the saucer and then just kind of work my way down because the saucer, in so many ways, is going to dictate the proportion of the ship, and the Cerritos is no different. Um, I was able to use the saucer to determine how big the engines needed to be, how big the lower hull needed to be, how big the pylons needed to be. So if you do these builds in that order, it can always help you and getting a more accurate build for sure. Because I will have people ask me from time to time, like, "Hey, what did you do to build this? Like, where are your blueprints at?" And I mean, I don't have them. At the end of the day, you know, this is just the steps that I use to try to get the most accurate ship that I can get. All right, so now we've starting to catch up where we were on the right side, and boom, just like that. Just have to match it up like that with the slope, and we're looking real good. Now, I don't think I'm going to want to bring this any further back. So what we're going to do is we're going to add some layers going inward. We're just going to do one row going all the way up. We're just going to do this conservatively because Definitely don't want to add too many rows to where this back piece looks too thick. I think more than likely we're probably going to settle on 3. But for right now, let's just go ahead and do the same thing on the right side now. So I like to continue by that rule. If I do one thing on one side, I'm going to complete it again on the other side. This is just one of the extra ways to help you stay consistent with your build. And we're rocking here. About almost all the way done with this row. So let's add one more row now. We're going to go all the way down. So that looks pretty good. I think with that thickness on the back end, we'll be able to get away with that. So we're going to apply that to the right side now. All right. Now we're the only thing left to do is to add the light gray stripe going along the back end inner side. I'm actually going to have to move those down by 1, I think, because it just doesn't look right. So that's okay. And I'm pretty sure the last time when we built this in yesterday's episode, I made the same mistake. But that's okay. Sometimes you just gotta throw it down, take a look at it, and if it doesn't look right, just get rid of it and do it again. All right, looking good pretty so far. So let's get rid of the last couple of rows. One more block. And I think we're gonna have to keep that there. Couldn't I actually get away with adding one more block down there? Now, I am actually going to make the pylons a little bit thicker than they currently are. I think we're going to add another row to them, but we're not going to do that in today's episode. We'll be doing that when we go in and start filling in the hull. Right now, we're just trying to get the overall shape of the Cerritos going. Um, we've gotten a good portion of the saucer done. We're really getting to the point where we can start closing in the hull, which is another reason why I want to build a lot of this out, because it's going to become very dark on the underside of the saucer as soon as we close it in. So any stuff that I can get done beforehand while I have the extra lighting under here definitely helps. Sure, I can add in a bunch of sea lanterns, but then I have to go through the uh, effort of adding them and then getting rid of all of them. So at this point, just easier to work a little bit smarter and not harder and take advantage of the natural light that we have. So now I'm going to be adding another row to the front end of our pylons on both the right and left side, because I think it needs a little bit more thickness. But I'm just doing this conservatively because we don't want to add too much at once. We got 2 more and 1. All right, we're looking pretty good. I think that's going to work. I actually think my pylons are actually ever so slightly a little bit more angled than the the one in the actual Cerritos on the show, but um, to be honest, I don't think anybody would have noticed that unless I pointed that out. I think it looks fantastic the way it is, actually. Yeah, I think that's going to work. It's going to work really good. All right, so now we're going to be getting into the second portion of our episode. We're 19 minutes in. We've got about another 16 minutes to go before it's going to wrap up today's episode, and we're going to be spending the remainder of that time on building out the wireframe for the nacelles, aka the ship engines. So you can see I've switched to a different color block, and I've done this so it doesn't blend in with the pylon, and I'm just going to build a row out same length as the last row of the pylon. I'm going to do the same thing on both sides. And this is just going to be our starter row that stands out, and we'll be able to build off of this line. All right, so let's do the same thing on the left side now. I believe that was 7, so let's count that out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Short enough and fairly confident we should not have to add a marker on that, so we're just going to forego that for now. And I'm not calling this out, but be sure to count this out with me while I'm building it, because I'm going to do this back end slow enough so that you can build this out with me. I'm trying to make a conscious effort of that, because this is a tutorial, so you can build this ship out with me. Should be able to build this out without any problems. And for whatever reason, if you do have any issues, be sure to drop a comment below and let me know. And whether that's on Twitch or on YouTube, and if you are, I'll try to help you out. And if you're watching me today on Twitch, be sure to follow me on youtube.com/c/Zero Elite. I greatly appreciate that. And we have tons of content coming out in the future. And after we're done with the Cerritos, we're going to be working on the Enterprise D. And after the Enterprise D, who knows? I've got a whole list of ships that I'm planning on building, and I've had a ton of requests. Um, I've had a few people ask me for the Enterprise E. I've had um, a few people ask for Voyager, but that's not as popular as it was. But I've still had some requests for Voyager, and I had a unique request the other day. Even though I've been thinking about it, actually building Deep Space Nine. I think that would be pretty cool. Um, and when I started thinking about that, I'm like, yeah, I could do something like that. Maybe even do the Defiant. So there's a lot of cool stuff that I'm thinking about doing. But right now, the only ships that I'm committed to building at this time is the Cerritos and Enterprise D. I want to wait until I get to the end of Enterprise D before I commit anything and see how I feel. Because that'll be 2 builds later, and you never know. That's a lot of work, and after that, my opinion can totally change. So anyway, getting back in a little bit what we got going on here. See that I'm very conservatively adding extra rows to the back of this block. Now we're going to do a guideline going or training line going straight across. So this way we can just essentially cheat and not have to count out the right side and just build it back. We just need to make sure that this row at least meets or passes the right side. So now we're going to build off of our gray build block, and we're just going to go straight back until we hit that blue line. You go back one more, and let's get rid of the extra blocks left over. All right, so far so good. Got a more or less a wireframe line of how long I'm thinking that the engines are going to be. Actually going to make them a little bit longer. That won't be for a little bit because ultimately what ends up happening is that when I build the lower hull down on the ship, it it actually makes the engines look a little bit shorter than what they're supposed to be. So I end up making them a little bit longer. But for right now, I think we're fine where we're at, and I'll show you how to make those longer when we reach that point. Because there's definitely a lot more to do on this tutorial, and this is not going to be the last episode. This is just the beginning. But I'm not sure how many episodes this is going to go out to. I don't think this is going to go nearly out to what my Disco Enterprise was. We were in the 80s. I forget which episode it actually ended up on because some of that build was just a blur because it got a lot of work done on that build in a really short period of time. But I think that I learned a lot while I was doing that build to a point that I've been able to make a lot more progress on this ship in a shorter period of time, but at the same time, uh, taking my time with it and not rushing myself uh, as I'm doing with the outline of the ship engines, trying to do it at a pace that people can keep up. But like I said, if you're having any issues, let me know in the comments section. I'll try to help you out. But right now, I'm just trying to gauge the length if I'm happy with it, and I'm just comparing this to the saucer and the pylons, looking at everything together, and then I'm looking at screenshots, seeing if it matches up. That is really the best thing to do. Um, So I'm pretty happy with the length that we have here. So now we're going to start building this out a little bit and try to make a little bit more of a 3D wireframe. But this is really just going to be going from the side. All right, let's do the same thing on the other side. So there's going to be an easy way to fix that. So we just need to delete back by 3, and the next 2 rows are 2. All right, so everything after 3 we're going to get rid of. And we're going to go cut down 1 and forward, delete that extra one, build out 2, down 1 and forward 2, and then delete the extra, and there you go. Because Cerritos actually, she's actually a pretty beautiful ship. She has some unique lines on her, that's for sure. I think the engines are probably one of the cleanest parts on the ship for sure. All right, I want this line to match up with here. So after that, let's delete that block. Now I am going to do a line going back over on this side. Don't have to. I'm just kind of feeling lazy, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it. All right, we're looking good. Got a whole lot of blue lines right here. We're going to get rid of those, but they're still very important in helping us to get this ship to match up on both sides. And then we're going to start building down at an angle. And this looks a little bit funky right now is because there's actually like, almost looks like the warp engine has 2 separate pieces. So that's pretty much what I'm trying to build right now. There's like a dark gray piece in the very front of the engine. And that kind of almost like fits inside the rest of it. So you can see right now I'm building um, pretty much the wall on what that dark gray piece is going to sit on. All right, so I counted that out. Now we're going to repeat that same process on this side. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. I think that's where we stopped at 7. I'm doing 8. All right. Typically, when I'm doing these ships, I don't usually build out a wireframe like this from a side profile for the engines. Um, but bear in mind, I've done a lot of Constitution class ships before this. This was really the first attempt in building this type of ship. So building a side wireframe is a great exercise to give you a good concept of what the base shape of the ship is, or the engine's going to be in this case. So I want this bottom row to match up at the top, so we're just going to build a pillar going all the way down. And we're going to delete the leftovers after this line, just to make that match up. This way, that's a trick without counting it out and it taking forever. Now we're going to do the same thing on this left side. We're rocking. We've got about 6 minutes left. We've shot through the first 30. I have a little bit more to do. Let's bring that back just a little bit further. Oh, no, I went way too far. Bring it back. Okay. I'm going to bring a pillar going all the way down just to double check and make sure I stopped where I needed to. It almost looked like I might have went one too far. Oh, perfect. All right. And the back end is almost going up at an angle perfectly. So we're just going to replicate that. So let's just do an angle going back up. And we're going to continue this until we get to the top row, and then we'll do a straight line going back to the front. Got one more. All right, that looks pretty good. It's not perfect, but it looks pretty good. It's enough to get us going. You see, I'm just looking at the right side to make sure that my left side matches up. And now a row up top. All right, so we're going to zoom out now and take a look at her, see how she looks. I think the thickness is pretty good on the engines. The length is still a little bit short, but we're going to run with it for now. We're going to do a gray line on both sides. It's kind of a starter for where the front of the engine is going to go. I want to be conservative about this too, because the front part, it's not super long, that front gray piece. Almost feel like maybe we can add one more row on the bottom. Feel like if we just add just one more, that would be enough. All right, looking good. Let's do the same thing on the left. Went a couple blocks too far. Let's fix that. I'm pretty happy with that thickness now. We can get a little bit more of a clear idea of the ship's profile, how she's going to look. You can see the Cerritos a little bit more with every episode is starting to come together. And we haven't even hit the most difficult part yet. We still we've got quite a bit of work ahead of us, to say the least. I'm literally going to build this row out until we get matched up with the top row, and then we'll do a pillar going all the way down, just double check. And we're going to slope them out in the front too to give them that shape that the Cerritos has on the engines. But this is again just a stand-in. I think that regardless, this gives a really good sense of the proportion of it. And that's really the main thing right now is getting everything in proportion. Try to look at it just from a side view and you can envision it. But the difficult part will be taking what we have now and transitioning it to a 3D shape, like we did with the saucer. And if you're just coming into this episode now, definitely check out the first 5 episodes that I go over that with you in detail. And if you're looking to build starships on Minecraft, this is really the tutorial series and channel for you. I give in-depth tutorials, and the best part is I build my ships off of requests and the ships that I'm interested in building. So if there's something you want to see me do, definitely drop a comment below. But as you can see, the Cerritos is coming out awesome. I couldn't be happier with the progress on this ship. And when this episode drops Friday, streaming it on Thursday night. Um, that'll wrap up this week, and then we'll pick up again on next week. But anyway, I think that's going to wrap up this episode. We've gotten a heck of a lot done. We still have a ton of work to do. But I just want to thank everybody for tuning into today's episode, whether you're on Twitch or YouTube. If you're on YouTube, definitely check out my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Zero Elite, just like it's spelled on the YouTube channel. I stream Sunday through Thursday nights at between 9 and 10 p.m. Eastern. And if you're wanting to get some access on my videos a little bit early before they drop on YouTube, my live streams are definitely where it's at. And if you're following me on YouTube, you can always catch my YouTube videos Tuesdays through Fridays for my new Minecraft videos, and Starship Evo is on Mondays. Slash Sundays for the streaming. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for me. I just want to thank everybody again. I hope everybody has a happy and safe week, and I'll catch you in the next episode.